Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. We are going to be talking about conservation digitization projects, database management, and digital asset management. My name is Kate Blanch. I'm the administrator of museum databases at the Walters Art Museum in Baltimore. My co-presenters are Dave Thompson, database and business intelligence manager, and Marty Stein, manager of photo resources, both from the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston. In general, our topic today is meant to focus around conservation laboratories and that they house the longest spanning and richest artwork documentation that exists in some cases within our museums. I think it's important to start by acknowledging the great strides that have been made by other institutions, the creative solutions that are out there, too numerous to mention today. There are folks all over the place trying to solve the problem of integrating electronic record keeping in the conservation laboratory environment. And these two projects that we're going to focus on today are just, two instances of creative problem solving, some grant funding, some people evangelizing their solutions to a small group of interested people who will get on board. I think it's important to talk about these case studies at MCN because it's the authentic paradigm of technology staff solving problems with limited resources. And in truth, it feels a little bit like the Wild West to be undertaking this kind of application implementation at our museum anyway. But we had a viable need and we are actually doing it. So in that spirit, here we go. I am going to touch on the archival cataloging of object conservation histories and the development and use of the conservation tracker database application. I'm going to touch a little bit on the sharing of those object histories on our Works of Art website and the NEA grant that allowed us to do this project. Dave and Marty are going to touch on the development and use of the art conservation database and an overview of their current documentation practice and the major project activities that include further development of the art conservation database and future phases. And Marty specifically is going to talk about their conservation labs and digital asset management, where they've come to date. We are going to close. We're going to save a big chunk of time at the end for Q&A. I think selfishly, one of the reasons I wanted to do this case study was to hear what you guys are working on and to get ideas, exchange challenges. So hopefully we'll have a lively Q&A session at the end. And so on to our presentation. I always like to start with this photo of this is actually our conservation laboratory. I don't have a date for this photograph because we were short on metadata for this particular asset, but our conservation lab at the Walters was founded in about the 1930s. It's one of the oldest in the country. And this is an actual picture of those early conservators. I believe they're both paintings conservators. I enjoy this photograph because we really have come so far. They would marvel at what we're doing today. Introductions, we've completed that. So in 2010, the Walters received an NEA Artistic Excellence Award to enrich the depth and quality of information available on our Works of Art website, and to improve site functionality. We have over 11,000 objects and images on our Works of Art website presently. And the grant project allowed us to enrich the depth and quality. And to us, that meant we wanted to close gaps in collection documentation in an object-centric way. And so we decided to catalog conservation and exhibition histories for 5,000 objects and publish them online. For us, it was important to acknowledge the decision to research and digitize and make public a store of information that was existing within our institution. We get a lot of curators and education staff that want us to get information from the community and internalize it. But for us, we really took the opportunity to try to work on stuff that was sort of hidden in file cabinets and locked away on people's hard drives. That was an important paradigm for us. The exhibitions information that we were researching and cataloging, that had a great home already in our collections management system, which is TMS. I'll refer to it a few slides down as TMS. So that had a great home. We didn't have to do any modifications to get that to work. But our conservation information was really without an electronic home. Our conservators had been recording stuff in Word documents, Access databases, and Excel spreadsheets, and tracing paper and graph paper and printouts and all sorts of other formats that we couldn't compile and publish easily. So in that sense, we definitely had to solve a problem in order to research and catalog the conservation histories, and that's what I mean by putting the cart before the horse. We did promise to publish stuff online before we'd even surveyed it or had a place to store it. But so that left us with a couple things to figure out. How were we going to catalog our conservation information and how we were going to make it public? And in our case, putting the cart before the horse is one way to get things done. I'm not sure it would have worked if we had tried to do it in the more traditional frontwards way. We decided to use a conservation tracker system, which was developed in conjunction with the Philadelphia Museum of Art and Inventive Software Solutions, which is a small development firm, couple guys in Philadelphia. The conservation tracker system, or tracker, is a comprehensive digital management tool for art conservation documentation, whose development began in 2000. And I think probably several of you might have heard Nancy Ash from the Philadelphia Museum present about this application in previous years at MCN. The present enhanced platform was supported by 2 officers' grants from the Mellon Foundation in 2008, and that was development done at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. In the last 14 months, we have, at the Walters, been able to release 2 version upgrades and some enhanced functionality, and I'll share that with you in a couple minutes. I definitely want to acknowledge Nancy Ash and the collaborative spirit that we have brought, and she has brought to the project. It's been a wonderful experience for me to collaborate with another institution over software. It's not something that I can say I've been able to do a lot in my professional history. The collaboration has brought a lot to the project, just in terms of having that broader perspective. And in fact, she developed her, her angles. She's a paper conservator. Our initial adopters are object conservators. So I think in terms of the difference in laboratory work, we are trying to go across different object types. Conservation Tracker is available. It's a license-free model, so there's no cost to get it. There's some small startup costs, just an hourly rate to help implement it on your server, and probably a couple training hours, but the costs are really reasonable, almost nominal when you think about, you're getting a software application. Our major project activities were to scan centralized paper files and paper documentation, transcribe information into tracker records, compile and centralize born digital documentation, digitize black and white prints and slides. The main focus of our efforts was to record examination and treatment documentation for collections objects. And I think I'll touch on this a little bit further, but all our digital information is going into our dams. I think there was a topic at an earlier session whether to put archival PDFs, and it works great for us. We have documentation and images side by side in our dams, and that's working out really well for us. So the second thing we had to figure out was how we were going to make it public. And this was, and still is, a very dynamic conversation with our conservators. There's all sorts of issues with professional ethics and conservation techniques that have been retired because they're not exactly, they've been outmoded. There is the whole narrative nature of recording conservation documentation, which can be really lengthy and honestly not always interesting to the end user who's coming to our website. So by no means have we figured this out at all in its most, complete solution. What we decided to do was we came up with a list of 30 or so keywords that could be applied to different activity types. So like treatment has, the activity type treatment has 15 terms that are standardized keywords. Examination has 20 terms. And it makes it very easy for data entry associates to apply keywords to complex conservation records. And it also makes it easy for the public to interpret it. That being said, it's pretty vague. The depth isn't really there. Abstracts or narratives can also be made available on our website. Right now, we're at the point where the conservators want to write them, and that's obviously really time-consuming, and they are busy conserving objects, and writing web blurbs definitely falls to the bottom of the stack. But when they do write them, they bring so much to an object's life cycle on our website. It's just information that you would never guess exists about an object. They have such great insight. We take the abstracts and the keywords and we share them with both the TMS conservation module, and also they get published to our Works of Art website. So we do have an automatic process that goes from Tracker to TMS and then from TMS to the web. And that's just SQL programming that I was able to do in-house, nothing really super complex. So this is just some up-close screenshots of our website and how the conservation data looks. The top slide is the keyword format. You can see it has the treatment date, or the activity date rather, the activity type, which is the middle column, and then the keywords. And I apologize that it's duplicated. It's a new website. It's choking on our information. So the bottom picture, I know it's small, but that's an example of a narrative that was written by a conservator. And, this the narrative reveals that this object was condemned by art historians until, as a modern fake, until radiocarbon dating revealed that it was actually authentic. So I just think that the end users love that kind of stuff. That's the last slide. Okay, so actually we are gonna, Dave and I both are gonna do live demos of our application. So just bear with us for a little pause. I think it's noble to go live, but it's not without its pitfalls. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is the conservation tracker database. And let me just get myself organized here. So what we liked about the about Conservation Tracker was all of the screens are organized in a grid format, which looks a lot like an Excel spreadsheet. Things are listed by accession number. You can sort by the column headers that you see. It's a very simple, straightforward interface. You can group by the column headers. You can also, there's like a quick search box, there's an advanced search box. You can pre-program filters. It has a lot of, I hesitate to call it Excel functionality, but that's sort of how we sell it to our less technical users. The other great thing about the list view, as it's called in Tracker, is that you can very easily look at a chronological view of an object and its history as recorded in Tracker. If I search by accession number, in this case 37179, I can see all the records. If I sort by start date, I can see a whole quick view of conservation history dating back to 1942, which is really great for the conservators just at a glance to know how much treatment something has had. By double-clicking on any record or any row that you see in list view, you get to object detail view. And this is where data entry happens. The Tracker database interfaces with our TMS database. It is designed to retrieve data from a collections management system. It doesn't have to be TMS. There are views within it that can be adapted to other collections management software. What we bring over from TMS are sort of the greatest hits of our data: artist title, curatorial department, classification. What also comes over: alternate numbers, exhibition history, and the TMS thumbnail images, so the primary image that you see linked in TMS. So I'm not going to demo all that because it gets quite in-depth, but that functionality, that crossover, is really important to us. So to enter data into Tracker, we use what we have determined to be a standardized list of data entry fields. We tried to keep them purposefully broad so that the different laboratories could adapt to them. One of the favorite features of our conservators is the Word, the Office and Word template functionality. So while these fields appear really small, and they're actually appearing really small because of the log me in. In real life, my monitor is a lot bigger than this. We can design custom Word templates that allow conservators to do data entry into all the tracker fields at once. So just go up to our Open in Word functionality. And what we get is a Word edit window. And our conservators are a lot more comfortable with Microsoft Word than they are with database applications. So this Word document contains every single field that would be on a tracker record. And the conservators can just go down the line and do their data entry this way. This also supports rich text, which in truth is a little bit of a database nightmare, but I think in some cases for the conservators, they really need the ability to format, copy and paste images, have the full functionality of a Word document. Also, you can access a Word edit window by right-clicking in any tracker field, which is another easy shortcut way to get out of the database interface. So getting data out of Tracker, there's a couple different ways to do that. There's two reporting tools that work with Tracker. The first one is more limited than the second. This is called our in-place reports, and by going up to the print button, you can design an endless number of custom reports. The tool that comes with Tracker is a little bit so-so. We prefer to use Crystal Reports, which has recently been integrated with Tracker, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. But just like the Word templates, you can also devise, a million different ways to print your data out. For our NEA grant and our archival cataloging project, our workflow is that we will scan archival information and use the attached files feature of Tracker. So we scan stuff as a PDF, it gets stored in the DAMs, and then when we create the corresponding Tracker record, we actually link the document to it. The rationale behind that is I was concerned that we would transcribe all this information and the conservation staff would not trust it. For them, there's these ultimate information trust issues. They really want to be looking at the original source. I think in the matters that they work with, if they get misinformation, it's a big deal in a bad way. So what we decided to do was link the document to the record. So you can actually, I'm not going to do it only because I'm working remotely and it's going to take some time to load my file, but you can see that this is actually an archival PDF, a treatment log from 1942, 51, and 1960 something. And if I were to double click on this link, I can actually open the PDF from Tracker. So you don't have to even go back to the DAMs. You can access all your archival documentation from here. So the attached files linked here are stored in our DAMs. Images and documentation live side by side in folders by accession number. That is probably the most straightforward way of organizing information that I could think of. And at this point in our process, we really just wanted to keep it simple. The last year, we set the goal to centralize all the conservation documentation into one place. Previously, it was spread across multiple network drives, hard drives, zip disks, CDs, you name it. We did accomplish that goal. We just moved all their assets into our digital asset management system, and it's been about 2 months since we completed that. So the first of two new features that we've been working on at the Walters for the last 14 or so months, the first funded by an NEA grant and the second by an IMLS grant. So you can see our resources are limited for this type of development. We just recently implemented a survey report type. What existed in Tracker previously were treatment report types, exam, technical requests, technical analysis, an in and out log, a loan exam form, and we've just added survey record to it. The concept behind the survey record is that it has all the report text fields that the other more narrative report types like treatment and examination have. It has the word templates. It's basically the same, except there's a new tab called survey fields. And what this allows you to do is create unique groups of user-defined fields for each survey that you might complete. So in this case, we are surveying composition and material. You can define the user field name, and you can also define the list values that are associated with it. And you can do this in an endless combination. The Tracker database is designed so that I could start a new survey in 6 months and come up with a whole new list of user fields and the list values that populate them. The survey fields are not limited to list values. The different format types are a multi-check combo box, as they call it, a drop-down list. You can have a text field, a memo field, and I believe there's a date and a numeric field as well, but I would have to double check that. So basically, once I've defined my user fields and the list values or the free text, once I've defined my user fields, you can group them and then link them to records as you survey objects. This is an example of a multi-check combo box. So I can just go in, select my values, click OK, and they all appear in a nice standardized format. There's also just free text. The other great thing is that for each row for each field on the Survey Fields tab, you can also embed an image so that if you had an image that represented that certain piece of the survey, you can embed a field-specific image, and you also have field-specific notes. And your surveys can be, like I said, as long or short as you want them. You can have an endless number of these and use them in different combinations as you go. We are presently working on the reporting component. Obviously, when you have the ability to create an endless number of custom fields, it does complicate your reporting a little bit. The second new feature is that we do have Crystal Reports integration in Tracker, and that's really important to me. Our collections management system is a Crystal Report driven tool, so for me to be able to actually combine data from the two into one report that you can run from Tracker is pretty powerful for us. So that completes my, I'm not going to demo the crystal reports just because we are remote and the lag time is, it just gets amplified. We'd be sitting here for many minutes. That completes my demo portion of Tracker. I think just a couple notes about our future goals. We are presently wanting to expand the use of Tracker into all 3 of our conservation labs. Actually, there's technically more like 4 or 5, but right now we have successfully implemented Tracker in our objects lab. We're scheduled to implement it into our paintings lab, and then we'll just try to work our way through. You know, we have a lot of interest right now, so we're trying to ride that wave. We also have really limited resources and a lot more archival digitization to complete. For the 18-month grant period, we have cataloged 5,000 objects when there are over 30,000 in our collection, and our documentation dates back to the 1930s in some cases. So we have an overwhelming amount of stuff to digitize. One of the paradigms that we are working with is the idea that if we don't put enough into the conservation tracker system, it's not going to be useful. We have to reach that tipping point of data in the system to get people to use it as their go-to tool. We basically think that we have a 5-year plan with Tracker, and then we're just going to see where it goes. It was, you know, a low commitment, low cost tool for us to adopt, and we are just gonna just gonna see how it progresses within our institution. So with that being